In this module, we're going to be discussing the other white meat, veal. The objectives for this module are: identify the primal, subprimal, and fabricated cuts of veal, describe and perform basic butchering procedures, purchase veal appropriate for your needs, explain appropriate cooking methods for different cuts of veal, apply appropriate cooking methods to several common cuts of veal, and discuss topics unique to the ethics of veal production. Veal is the meat of young, usually male calves that are the byproducts of the dairy industry. Young veal has a firm texture, light pink color, and very little fat, similar to, but darker than pork. Veal's delicate flavor is complemented by both classic and modern sauces. The veal carcass can be split down the backbone into two halves, or the veal carcass can be cut between the 11th and 12th rib into two sections, called the foresaddle and the hindsaddle. The foresaddle of veal consists of the shoulder, foreshank, and breast, and rib. It may be purchased whole or divided into primal or subprimal cuts. Similar to the beef shoulder or chuck, the veal shoulder accounts for 21% of the carcass weight. It contains 4 rib bones as opposed to 5 in the beef chuck, and portions of the backbone, blade, and arm bones. In veal, the backbone, blade, and arm bones are sometimes removed and the meat roasted or stuffed and roasted. Although veal shoulder chops and steaks can be fabricated, they're inferior to the chops cut from more tender areas such as the loin or rib. Often the shoulder and neck meat is ground or cubed for stew. Because of the relatively large amount of connective tissue it contains, meat from the shoulder is relatively tough and best braised or stewed. The veal foreshank and veal breast are located beneath the shoulder and rib sections on the front half of the carcass. They are considered one primal cut. Combined, they account for approximately 16% of the carcass weight. This primal contains rib bones and rib cartilage, breast bones, and shank bones. Because the calf is slaughtered young, many of the breast bones are cartilaginous rather than bony. This cartilage, as well as the ample fat and connective tissue present in the breast, breaks down during long, moist cooking, thus making the breast best for braising or stewing. Veal breast can also be cubed for stews such as a veal fricassee or a veal blanquette, rolled and stuffed or trimmed and ground. The foreshank is also very flavorful but tough. It can be braised whole or sliced perpendicular to the shank bone and braised to produce ossobuco. The veal double rib, also known as the rib hotel rack, is very tender. Relatively small primal cut, accounting for approximately 9% of the carcass weight. It is very popular and very expensive. The double rack of 2 racks, each with 7 rib bones and a portion of the backbone. The veal racks can be roasted whole, or more often, veal racks are trimmed and cut into chops, which can be also boned in or boneless, to be grilled, sauteed, or braised. The bones of the racks or individual chops are trimmed of excess fat, a technique called Frenching. This is a method of trimming racks or individual chops of meat. We'll talk about that a little later, especially when we get to lamb, in which the excess fat is cut away, leaving the eye muscle intact. All meat and connective tissues are removed from the rib bone. The hindsaddle consists of the loin and leg and may be purchased whole or divided into the primal or subprimal cuts. The veal loin is posterior to the primal rib, contains 2 ribs, numbers 12 and 13, and accounts for approximately 10% of the carcass weight. The loin consists of the loin eye muscle on the top of the rib bones and the tenderloin underneath them. The rib loin eye is very tender, and the veal tenderloin is without a doubt the most tender cut of veal. It is the primary veal loin is separated from the primal leg. Before the tenderloin is removed, the tenderloin will be cut into two pieces. The small portion, short tenderloin, remains in the primal loin, and the large portion, butt tenderloin, remains in the sirloin portion of the leg. The tenderloin is sometimes removed and cut into medallions. The veal loin is often cut into chops, bone-in or boneless. The boneless veal loin is called a boneless strip loin. Veal loin meat is usually cooked using dry cook methods, such as broiling or grilling or roasting or sauteing. The primal leg consists of both the sirloin and the leg bone. Together they account for approximately 42% of the carcass weight. The primal leg is separated from the loin by a cut perpendicular to the backbone, immediately anterior to the hip bone. The leg contains portions of the backbone, tailbone, hip bone, H-bone, and round bone, and hind shank. Although it is tender enough to be roasted whole, the veal leg is typically fabricated into cutlets and scallops for scallopini or schnitzel. Also shown on pages 354 to 356 in your book, to fabricate these cuts, the veal leg is first broken down into major muscles in top round, eye round, knuckles, sirloin, bottom round, which can be used instead of, which includes the sirloin, and the butt tenderloin. Each of these muscles can be reduced to scallops by trimming all fat and visible connective tissue and slicing against the grain to the desired thickness. The scallop then should be pounded carefully to tenderize them further and to prevent them from curling. The veal hind shank is somewhat meatier than the foreshank, but both are prepared and cooked in the same manner. Several veal organ meats, called offals, are used in food service operations. Calf organ meats are more tender than the milder flavor than those from beef. Sweetbreads are the thymus glands of the veal, and also in lamb. As an animal ages, its thymus gland shrinks, therefore sweetbreads are not available from older calf or older cattle or older sheep. Veal sweetbreads are much more popular than lamb sweetbreads in the United States. Good quality sweetbreads should be plump and firm with an exterior membrane intact. Delicately flavored and tender, they are usually blanched before being sauteed or pan-fried, although sweetbreads can also be prepared by almost any cooking method. Calf's liver is more popular than beef liver because of its tenderness and mild flavor. Good quality calf liver should be firm and moist with a shiny appearance and without any off colors. It's most often sliced and sauteed or broiled and served with the sauce. Veal kidneys are more popular in other parts of the world than in the United States. Good quality kidneys should be plump, firm, and encased in a shiny membrane. Properly prepared kidneys have a rich flavor and firm texture. They're best prepared by moist heat cooking methods and are sometimes used in stews or in kidney pie. The hard, flavorful fat called suet that collects on veal kidneys can be used in force meats, for barding, and for when rendering or for deep frying. Veal quality varies greatly among purveyors. Purchase veal only from reputable companies to be sure of receiving a consistently high quality product. Veal meat should be moist and fresh looking with a pale color. A large quantity of outside fat, marbling, and fat that is yellow in color indicates that the calf was too old when slaughtered. The meat may be tough, or the flavor may be off. Because the veal carcass is small enough to be handled easily, it's sometimes purchased in forms larger than the primal cuts described in the chapter. Depending on the employee's skill, available equipment, storage space, and ability to utilize fully all the cuts and trimmings that fabricating meat produces, a chef may want to purchase veal in one of the following forms: foresaddle, hind saddle, back, veal side, or any number of ready-to-cook or minimal fabrication needed cuts. Like beef, veal is a major source of protein as well as niacin, zinc, and B vitamins. Veal has less marbling than beef. When trimmed of any visible fat, veal is lower in fat and calories than comparable beef cuts, and it is leaner than many cuts of pork and poultry. As you can see from the image below, comparing beef to veal, with the same size serving of 85 grams, beef has 232 calories, where veal has 196 calories, predominantly from the increase in fat from beef to veal. As you can see, in beef you have 15 grams of fat versus 10 grams in veal. Most veal produced today is formula-fed veal. Formula-fed calves are fed only nutrient-rich liquids, and they are tethered into pens only slightly larger than their bodies in order to restrict their movements. Preventing the calves from eating grasses and other foods containing iron keeps their flesh white. Restricting movement keeps their muscles from toughening. In recent years, controversy and allegations of cruelty have arisen concerning these methods, which has led to some farmers to raise their calves in open pens with access to the outdoors. Free-range veal is produced from calves that are allowed to roam freely and eat grasses and other natural foods. Because they consume feed containing iron, their flesh is reddish pink and has a substantially different flavor than meat from formulated cows or calves of the same age. Opinions differ on which type of veal has a better flavor. Some chefs prefer the consistently mild, sweet taste of formulated veal. Others prefer the more substantial flavor of free-range veal. The two are interchangeable in recipes. Cost, however, may be the ultimate deciding factor when determining which to use. Free-range veal is more expensive than formula-fed veal because of its limited production.
The following video shows cruelty to animals. If you are sensitive to such, please do not watch. Please also keep in mind this represents only one side of the equation. There is much more to the industry than just this one image.
Hello, I'm Bob Barker, and we're going to share with you the horrific findings of a recent undercover expose done by Mercy for Animals. Hidden camera footage recorded by Mercy for Animals at Buckeye Veal in Apple Creek, Ohio, uncovers the plight of the youngest victims of the veal and dairy industries. Baby male calves, doomed to a short life, chained inside a tiny crate. Few consumers realize that veal is a direct byproduct of the dairy industry. Because dairy cows must be impregnated in order to produce milk, producers rip the newborn calves from their mother's sides shortly after birth, so that humans can have the milk instead. The male calves have little economic value, since they will never produce milk. Within their first moments of life, many of these young animals are shipped off to veal factory farms. Most calves raised for veal are chained by their necks inside narrow wooden crates, barely larger than their bodies. This confinement is so extreme that the calves can't even turn around or lie down comfortably. Day in and day out, these gentle creatures are deprived of the attention and affection of their mothers. During their short, miserable lives, the calves are unable to breathe fresh air, feel grass beneath their feet, walk, run, or play. Immobilizing calves in this cruel manner is intended to inhibit muscle development, resulting in the ultra-tenderness for which white veal is known. Typically fed an iron-deficient formula designed to induce borderline anemia, these baby animals can suffer from ulcers, pneumonia, lameness, and diarrhea. Numerous animal welfare and behavior experts, including the American Veterinary Medical Association, opposes the chaining of calves by their necks in restrictive veal crates where they can't turn around. The independent Pew Commission on Industrial Farm Animal Production concluded that veal crates should be phased out, stating the most intensive confinement systems, such as restricted veal crates, all prevent the animal from a normal range of movement and constitute inhumane treatment.
In contrast, today, most veal farms raise their animals with a humane treatment.
Calves are raised in group pens where they can lay down, walk around, groom naturally. They're definitely not raised with tethers or in crates. So a veal calf, we get them around 100 pounds from the dairy farm. When they come to us, they go into a starter system, and that's kind of like our nursery system. So they get individual care until they're healthy enough and they have really good immune systems. And then they move into a group housing like you see behind me here. And these group pens are usually 5 to 10 animals. And they are raised up to about 500 pounds, 6 months old.
We have pens anywhere from, 2 calves all the way up to eight calves per pen. So somewhere in between, every farm is a little bit different. We'll still start them as individuals just because you really have to watch that baby calf much closer than you can in a pen of, say, 8. You really got to stay on top of that.
One of the things we do to ensure that our calves are healthy and in good health is we have field service technicians that visit our farms on a bi-weekly basis. We also employ a full-time veterinarian that makes regular visits to the farms. Along with that, our growers many of them are very long-term growers with us. Taking care of the animals is their top priority as well.
So let's discuss some takeaways for today. Number 1, veal is a byproduct of the dairy industry. It's typically male calves that are weaned from dairy-producing cows. Veal ranges in color from pale to more rosy in color and pink, depending on how it's raised and how it's fed. Veal chops and veal scallopinis or scallops are the most popular form of veal, followed closely by the veal shank, or the ossobuco as it's called. Unlike a whole adult cow, veals are much smaller and can be purchased in larger size primal cuts. Veal offals such as sweetbreads, liver, and kidney are much more preferred to its adult cow variety due to its less aged taste. And the veal controversy still rages on today, with concerns over the humane handling of veal cattle, as we've seen.